toggle switches. They're a very iOS feature. So let's look at adding one to our current app. Open up your main storyboard. Over in your toolbox, type toggle, or if that doesn't come up, type switch. And if we click on switch, down here you'll notice this is called a UI switch. Drag one over to your project and then we're going to position this just under our enter sentence label. In fact, let's give it a little room by pinning it to the side, giving it a value of, let's see, 10, and then let's pin it to the label above. And let's give that a spacing of, hang on, Xamarin's just doing funny things this morning. Give it a spacing of about 20. Once you've done that, we're going to put a little label next to it that tells the user exactly what they need to use this switch for. So let's drop in a label from our toolbox and pop it next to the switch. Let's double click this, and what are we going to use this switch for? Let's have random color on. Then let's increase the size, and you can do it when we have these circular icons set as on. There we go. And then click it once more and let's pin this over to the side of our switch. We want this nice and close so the user knows what to do with it. And let's drop this to about, I believe, let's try 10. Right, so I've got our switch and our label, and I actually want to move this up a little. Let's move everything about to its location. So click the switch, click the update frames button, and the same with the label. So we can get everything lined up nicely. Let's have this at 10, maybe bump it up a little. There we go. That kind of fits now and seems tied to that label. Right, let's click the switch, and of course we have to give it a name so we can reference it inside of our code. So let's just call this switch with a lowercase s. In fact, that's a bad name because in C# you have statements called switch case statements or case switch statements, and switch is a keyword that it uses. So let's have this named color switch, so there's no clash of words here. Right, so save that. We now have a reference to our color switch. What are we going to do with it? Well, let's open up our viewcontroller.cs, and seeing as we've called it a color switch, what we want to do is when it's on, we want to toggle the background color like we did in the previous section. When it's off, we want to leave the background color as it is. So inside of our button touch up inside is where we're going to take care of that. Just above the code to change color, we're going to perform a check to see whether the switch is on or not. So type if color switch dot on. So this tests whether the switch is on or off. Open our curly braces And if the switch is on, we're going to surround this random color function with some Boolean testing to see if our switch is on. Right, so hit play, and hopefully this will work when we run it in our simulator. So when we have the switch on, we get a background color change when we click transport, and we do. If we switch the switch off and hit transport, there is no change of color. Now this isn't obviously the only way to use the UI switch in iOS. I'll just stop that running. There are several other ways to do it. One of which we can put inside of ViewDidLoad. Let's have color switch dot, and then let's scroll down the list and look for the E icon, which tells us about an event that happens to the switch. So we've got editing. What else do we have? We also had some touch-up insides, which is sort of similar to how buttons work. So if I start scrolling down here, we've got a touch, drag, touch down, etc., etc. We've also got this one that I use most often, and it's value changed. So let's have a plus equals for that, and scroll down and set our color switch value changed method, and this will fire it up for us. So if our switch has been changed, I think what we'd like to do is change the label color, or not the label color, the label text, to let us know that the switch is currently deactivated or activated. So first of all, go to your main storyboard and let's click the random color on label and let's give it a name. So let's have this as switch label. Save that, and now inside of here we should have access to our switch label. Then let's say if our color switch dot is on, then what I'd like to do is set my switch label dot text equal to, let's call this deactivate color. Then we're going to have an else. So if the switch is off, we will have the switch label dot text equal to activate color. Right, so now this is going to fire off every time the switch is toggled, which means our label text should also change with that toggle. And this is all part of good user experience. You need to tell your user explicitly what is going on. If you click it off, it says activate color, deactivate color. So I can click transport as much as I like, nothing happens. I can activate it, and transport does its business. Okay, that sums up how to use a UI switch. And it's quite a handy control to have because it's used everywhere inside of the default iOS apps like settings, so users recognize it and know how to interact with it.